It's rock and roll.
Welcome to the Look It's Rock and Roll podcast. We are back and we are talking W.A.S.P. I'm not going to call it a W.A.S.P. chat. That's like just so doesn't work when you're talking about W.A.S.P. W.A.S.P. is more, I mean, when you're throwing meat and, you know, you're taping nuns up to a torture device, and you've got Chris Holmes doing Chris Holmes animal things, and then you've got Blackie going all fetish dark. No.
Down and dirty sounds good.
Yeah. All right.
W.A.S.P.
So
down and dirty.
We are getting down and dirty into the ass end of the assless chap end of the W.A.S.P. catalog. So of course I am joined by Andy and Bill to go through the W.A.S.P. catalog. This is a mission that we've set ourselves because people don't do enough podcasts about W.A.S.P. unless it's well, you know who. Talking on Decibel Geek.
I don't know. I have no clue.
Actually, Randy's done some podcasts as well, so I haven't seen Blackie out and about doing any, which is a real shame. So we're going to give some respect to the catalog.
Well, something that was pretty cool that Baco had does a one-on-one series when Luce isn't on the show with him on Cobras and Fire, and he brought in the guy from Blame Your Brother, and his goal was to try to convince the guy to become a W.A.S.P. fan. So he came up with like 10 songs to try to convert him to being a W.A.S.P. fan. So we got Baco in our corner. So
nice. Well, that's a good one to have in your corner. And we'll do that at the end when we finished our wrap up on all the studio albums that we're going to feature. Well, we're going all the way to the end. We're going to come back with an episode where we do our best of W.A.S.P. episode, and we'll take 20 songs from each one of us that we think are the best, and then combine them into a list to create a unified best of W.A.S.P. list. And but for now, let's get back to Neon God. When we last left you many months ago, we had of course talked about Neon God Volume 1, so do go back and check out that episode, perhaps listening to this one, because it's very tough. I have not been listening to a lot of W.A.S.P. in the interim, been very busy with other stuff, but we're going to be picking back up with the culmination of Blackie's story, which is, of course, well, originally titled Volume Neon God, Part 2, The Demise. So this album was released September the 28th, 2004, via Noise and Sanctuary. And I checked that because it's wrong on Wikipedia. So I went back. Blabbermouth had the original press release that it was getting released, and Blackie was going back and forth between tour and studio trying to get this volume done in time to get it out. And it's the second album with guitarist Darryl Roberts. Mike Duda is, of course, on bass. Frankie Banali, rest in peace, on drums on all songs except Wishing Well. Actually, am I on the right fucking album? No,
you're on the wrong album.
Those are my notes from the first freaking one. So, yeah, we'll just move on from that. So let's get straight into it.
Howland is the drums on the entire
album. He took over at that point and was doing all the drumming. So It's the third album with Darryl. And there we go. That's what happens when you do shows and you do half the work to prepare for them and not the rest. So, impressions of the cover art. I don't think I had much great to say about the last one. I do think the album art looks really good on that background now that I've tweaked the colors. But in terms of just everything on the look of the package, Bill, thoughts on that? And you've only got the booklet there. But
I like that it's the darker side of it because, the Neon God 1, was a much brighter color, and, there was the images of naked humans blending into the background and all kinds of stuff like that. But, when you look at this one, all you can think is smashes, thrashes, and neon gods.
Yeah, it does have somewhat Kiss overtones to all of us that do love that band. And, of course, Smashes, Thrashes, and Hits was the 1988 compilation by that band, if you didn't know. Their highest-selling album of the unoriginal era. Andy, art, do you even care, or is it just the music?
Well, to be honest with you, when the album came out, I didn't even get my hands on it. A friend got his hands on it, and I could never find it. So this was actually my original copies. So I had no cover, no nothing. So I was like, and I tried finding this for a long time, and I could never find it. Then when I finally got it, it's all right. I mean, whatever. Seriously, whatever. It's nothing special, nothing great. Could
Yeah,
be better.
I didn't even buy it back in the day when this album came out.
Couldn't find it.
I couldn't find it, and they kind of fell off my radar. I was too wrapped up in other things by that point, so it wasn't a big deal. But you know what? As far as art goes, it continues the theme set, and I think Bill nailed it. That it shows the darker side because that's where we are in the story, and having to go back and read all those liner notes again. To refresh one's memory of the road that Judah, Jesse, and all the other characters have kind of traveled in the narrative took a bit of going. I mean, I'm glad I scanned it in because the freaking magnification just really helps. But how do you describe the album in comparison to Part 1? Does it feel like a follow-on, or does it feel like a separate kind of chapter, Bill?
I think it definitely feels like a follow-on. It definitely brings the madness and the mayhem of the first version into what leads into the eventual demise. And I think it's really a great follow-on.
Yeah, what about you, Andy? Do you take it as a part of a complete story, or does it stand well enough on its own?
They can go both ways. I mean, originally it was supposed to go together, and according to Blackie, if I remember right, that he wanted it to be a double CD, and it was the record company that told him no, it'd be too expensive to put together as a double CD. And Blackie was, I guess, said, I remember this. I don't know why I remember this so good. Weird. So anyways, he had said that he wanted to go together to be one package, and people would pay, a couple, whatever. I paid the extra bucks to get it all in one shot. But the record company said, no, it's too much. It's too much packaging. We can't put it together. It'd be too expensive to pack it together, which is kind of crazy. By then, you could put 2 discs in basically one thing nowadays, or even back then. And so, this came 8 months later? The Part 2 came out 8 months later. So it got kind of lost. And like I said, I couldn't find it. My friend found one copy someplace, and I'm like, dude, I got to take it from you, bring it to work, and sorry, gotta steal it because I can't find it. So, hey, but it can go either way. I think it could stand on its own. If you kind of, if you're not, I guess if you don't follow the story, you could go on its own. If you're following the story from head to toe, you got to put them together.
Yeah. So
Part 1. I'm sorry, Part 1. Like if you're wanting this to stand on its own, with the story, Part 1 definitely has to go into it. So it's kind of one of those catch-22s where at one point I had made a comment that you can't really judge a concept album the same way you can like The Last Command, where there's not necessarily a thread running through it all. So if you try to dive into the second half, that's like like watching the Star Wars trilogy. You come in at movie 2, you lose a lot of things that's in the story in movie 1 or whatever. But I think musically, it could stand on its own. But I mean, if you're really immersed into the lyrics and the story, then you definitely have to have Volume 1.
Well, aren't we at that age we get lost with Star Wars anyways? Isn't the first movie that we saw, the 70s, one of the last ones now or something?
The first one is the 6th one, or the first one's the 4th one or something like that. Whatever.
Yeah.
First one's the only one.
Yeah.
Good answer.
All downhill from there. So I find it interesting that Blackie at the time, you're talking about how he wanted a double CD set, but was kind of shot down by the label. But yet here he is already out on tour for the first part of the Neon God tour and running back to the studio to finish recording it. So I think there's possibly a little bit more to it than that. Though they may have said, no, we're not putting it all out in one shot, in which case he then only recorded what he needed for the first part and then shifted the dynamics when it was time to approach the second one, which is fair enough. I think, this is supposed to take us through the plot climax to resolution and ending. As a standalone, it's really difficult for me to sit there and say, you know what, I'm in the mood to listen to Neon God Part 2 today. I don't really separate them out into different albums, even though each one is symbolic as a part of the story, the beginning and the end. But I don't think the halves are equal by any stretch of the imagination. So, Andy, how does the Neon God plot go for you for this? And does it work? Do you follow it like you did Part 1, or where's it at for you?
I think, actually, I think the Part 2 is better than the Part 1. I think the songs are better in Part 2 than they are in Part 1. I don't know. That's me.
More conflict.
But again, if you follow the story, some people don't want to follow the story. I mean, it is kind of a pain. I mean, it's a long, especially at the end. It's this person's talking to this one. This one's sorry. I mean, I printed out. I had to print out all the lyrics. It's like The Last Redemption. I mean, it's super long. I mean, look at it, front, back, another front. I mean, it's so long, and it's Judah talks to Jesse, Jesse talks to Judah, Judah talks to his mother, back and forth. It's the same voice. It's Blackie's voice. So it's kind of, sometimes it does take a little bit to catch on. But musical-wise, I think it's better than the first one.
Yeah, plot-wise, I find it impenetrable. And that's because I have a problem with single voice concept albums where one person's playing all the roles and doesn't have enough dynamics in their voice to shift around to be absolutely clear of what they're doing. I also don't like having to do that much thinking. When you think of the size of the instruction manual Neon God 1 comes with, there's not much in Neon God 2, the Demise, compared to that. So it really does assume that you've done your homework before listening to it. So I think maybe at my age now, I just don't want to think that much when listening to music. I kind of want it to just take me where it's going to be. So occasionally I will focus in on lyrics and phrases, but I'm more about the vibe of the music these days. Bill, what about you?
Yeah, I think of course, an episode wouldn't be complete without me comparing this to The Who, because and another one of those is going to come up later on. But I think that I agree with Andy that musically it's better than the first one, but there's a lot more detailed storytelling in Neon 1, and the Neon 2 tends to have more. That's like, well, I picked 3 singles out of the songs that could actually just be standalone singles, just from the way they're written, just from the way they're not trying to have 5 different voices, and where you mentioned the one voice for all the characters. It's like the last couple songs, Blackie decided to change his voice for Judah when he could have done that in the first part and made it seem so much more sensible. Where it was more of a speaking voice than a singing voice, but he sang it all the way through Volume 1. But that's the thing is would you be able to dive into Tommy Disc 2? Without listening to Disc 1? I don't think so. I think that the story, has to be cohesive all the way through. And as far as the cost thing, back to that previous subject there, you're talking CDs. These things were probably costing, 25 cents to make. And like Andy said, you could get the 2 25-cent discs, put them in the same box. Don't tell me about cost. That, The printing was probably the most expensive part, period. And they'd already printed up, the instruction manual for Neon 1. So why not throw a couple extra pages on the back of it? If you eliminate the endorsements and the band listing, you've only got like 4 pages of text anyway. And one thing I thought about it is if the song lyrics were transitioned through the story in order, it would make a lot more sense. But I do think the plot works, and it actually works on a better level than Part 1.
Interesting. I think Judas Priest could have saved some money by doing an EP of Nostradamus first before releasing that as a double CD in packaging, which they didn't learn their lesson on that one. Let's dig into the song by song on this. First song, Never Say Die, great opening track. And this is one where I think there's good separation between the characters that, Blackie's kind of portraying vocally. But it's a great way to open an album, even if you're just going to take that album on its own as a standalone listening experience, which I've already said I tend to favor. Bill, I'm going to go back to you on that for your thoughts on the first song.
Yeah, that was like I basically have single worthy number one, because this can be. It fits into the story well, and of course, if you're reading along with the lyrics, then it fits into the story as the whole. But I mean, it can stand completely on its own as a W.A.S.P song, just as much as like Blind in Texas or whatever.
Yeah, or I Want to Be Somebody, Never Say Die.
Exactly.
Both similar sorts of WASP-ish anthems. Andy.
First thing, you turn it on, it's like, never say die, never say die, never say die. Just hit you right away, you know what I mean? Just right into it. No games, no, fooling around, no nothing. And you gotta say, man, Blackie's voice at that time was like mint. Serious mint. If you, where is it? Pot, I don't say near the end of the song, but he does a couple like screams and yells that are like, everybody's heard Blackie give it a high pitch, but a couple of those ones are super high pitch, you know what I mean? It's like, ah! For the guy who's got that kind of voice, So yeah, I like this song. If we're doing it like say like 1 out of 5 or 1 out of 4, I give this song about 4.5 stars. You know what I mean? This is just bang, right at you, right in your face. Go, put it in the car. This is the one you put you're in the car. You're not listening to the words per se. You're not getting deep into the story. You're just slapping it in the car and you're driving. And you're like, never say that, never say that. Right into it. So
catchy chorus.
Like a 4.5 stars. So that's my take.
Yeah, I think if Bill says single worthy, you say 4.5 stars, and I say catchy chorus, that's a pretty positive response.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Resurrector. And this one really makes it easy for a person like me to understand it in terms of where it fits into story and digest the lyrics. So thank you, Blackie, for telegraphing something that I didn't have to open up the manual to read about. I love the chorus on this, and I also think it's a fantastic solo. Bill?
Yeah, definitely. And it's a cool transitional piece that really gets you settled back into the story. There's no hook like Never Say Die in it, so that eliminates it from being a single worthy. But it's necessary for the album. It's necessary for keeping the story moving, and it's well done. You're going to hear well done a lot as we discuss this one musically, because everything performance-wise is really top-notch. And I'm finally starting to get over the cymbal thing, because the cymbals the cymbals are apparently the same cymbals that everybody who's digitally recorded anything for the past 25 years has used. So it's really only been upgraded like in the past 10 years, where there's better drum sounds and cymbals. But
I was getting worried. We're into the second song, and you hadn't mentioned anything about drumming yet. So I was actually just about to ask you, where your mindset was on the sonics of the album, because I think it's very consistent. If they weren't recorded at the same time, Blackie did a good job of keeping things so that when I combine both of these albums and play sequentially, I can't tell the difference that they're two separate albums recorded, released and recorded at different times during the year.
Right. And Stet's drumming is on top game. I would probably put him in like, number 2 of my favorite W.A.S.P drummers, and definitely, Frankie would be number 1, and then probably Tony Richards as the 3rd. But Stet is just on the money through the whole record.
Andy, Resurrector.
It's okay song. It's not one of my favorites, but it's okay. I give it about a 3. It's I don't know. It's like one of those weird things. You go from Never Say Die, Never Say Die to Resurrection. A little bit off. But again, like you guys are saying, the drumming, the guitar work, everything. They're just so good at this stuff, you know? So that's my take. Pretty. Your turn.
Yeah, and I've got 2 stars next to the title, which means I like it a lot. So, there you go. I don't do out of 5 rankings. So let's get into the Demise. And Andy, back to you on the Demise because you're really quick on the other one.
Yeah, I don't know. It's okay too. I mean, I again, it's like almost one of those things. I've been trying to re-get myself more into this album because listening into it, when you get free, when you just first listen to it, you just listen, and now I'm just trying to like read the words as now I'm listening to it. So I get kind of lost. You get lost now, never. So, anyways, and I'm not really a Christian, all that religion stuff. So all that stuff is kind of irks me. But the song and the music wise, it's good. I give it another 3.
So you're not into listening to the hymn and reading the manual at the same time either?
You know what? It'd be yes and no, depending, I guess, on the mood. What day is this? If I'm just going to be hanging around, okay, might as well just, today I'll say, oh, yeah. And then other days you're kind of like, say you're doing stuff in your house or whatever you're doing, you're kind of walking around, running around, and you just want to hear the music. So, I guess it just depends. Depends on the day and the time. Who has any time, though, anymore, right?
No one. We're all out of time. Straight out of time. The Demise title track. I have problems with it. It's a bit too obvious, the title. But, I find it musically powerful. But content-wise, it seems to be less about Demise, but about Jesse reaching the pinnacle of the lie. So maybe that is the Demise, that you've gone all the way up to the top of the mountain, and that's where the cracks in the facade start appearing in the next song. So maybe the Demise was getting diluted completely to the top. Bill, you gave me a thumbs up.
I gave you a thumbs up because apparently I like to use words that world famous authors use, and the word is pinnacle. Because I actually have here in my notes, I have the pinnacle leading to the shocking turnaround in the story. And I agree with you that the Demise is a lousy name for it because it's really a climax. It's the peak where everything changes. Everything's getting ready to change. The last gasp of, it'd be like where a sports figure would like win their last big game before everything goes to hell in a handbasket. And that's what's coming up next. And I also mentioned here in my notes that this is where the lyrics being printed inside the story would have been more beneficial. Maybe that was on the last one. No, that was on this one. But it's just there was so much decadence, and Jesse was so full of himself in this, and like they say, it's all about the change.
That's right. So why don't you take us into that next song, Clockwork Mary?
Okay, and that's where I think it's really an important turning point. And as I was writing my notes for this, I was kind of thinking, it's like, okay, well, Mary isn't, he kind of made light of her in the beginning. It was like, my father was this, and he was, this great person, and I admired him. He was my hero. And my mom was okay, and then she turned into a drug-using whore or whatever. And then maybe had he not encountered Mary at that point, that maybe this turnaround wouldn't have happened. But where he blamed, he credited her for giving him life, and then he condemned her for giving him away. And then as he encounters her at this point in the story, maybe she is the catalyst that throws him back into, hey, you're living a lie. You need to turn it around. Even though he's kind of, he's not very nice to her in this part of the story. But I mean, she may have been the catalyst to make him realize that what he was living was a lie.
Yeah, so this one I actually consider to be the Demise, the song.
Yeah.
it's a nice change of pace musically. And I mean, my initial note was, "Oh, great, a mommy song." My next note was, "Oh, thank God Jim Morrison didn't write this one." But it seems that Mary's voice is missing in the song. This really needs more of a different characterization in the voice. Almost needs to be a duet with some, power metaler, from Scandinavia, to be that callback or that echo, across both his time and experience. And I find it too open-ended. So it doesn't really provide blame or justification or a mirror. So, it's again, I like it as a change of pace, but in terms of the song, that's where I start having problems with the story and, how it's being presented. But it's also remembering the limitations under which Blackie's working. He's basically a one-man show, taking all of these voices on his shoulder or getting those voices out of his head. So, Andy.
Yeah, you hit it. Like I was saying earlier, sometimes it's hard to figure out who's talking to who when he's singing the song. Like you said, would have been nice if he had got some woman or whoever to sing the woman parts and back and forth and the whole back and forth. And you guys are right, though. This is where he finds out that he's basically not a god and nothing, basically. My mom had me, gave me away, threw me away, a piece of garbage. All of a sudden, she shows back up. What do you say about that? Go away now. You know what I mean? Just get lost. I know some people. See, I guess some people might relate more to this song than, like, say me. I had a good relationship with my parents and stuff, so I can't really. You know what I'm saying? I never had that kind of issues, but maybe somebody has, people have, and that's why they enjoy this kind of stuff in their way more than we might in our way. You know what I'm saying? Getting that right, trying to get that out right.
Yeah, maybe Jesse's just figuring out that he's really no better than his mother and everything he blames and accuses her of being. So,
and sometimes in life you have things that might, on the surface, look like the worst thing that ever happened to you, but it could be the thing that rescues you. So, that's the thing, is like if I hadn't got thrown out the front door, I wouldn't have fallen off the building, or I don't know. I'm just making shit up. But I mean, that's the thing, is you do have bad experiences that happen to be the turnaround points in your life. And, mom showing up, it was like, okay, it may not have been the impact of the car crash, but it's definitely the tires squealing to where things are starting to come to a stop.
Yep. And don't forget what's going on in Blackie's life at this time as well, because all of that ties back in with kind of where he's writing from. It's the beginning of some changes to his life. So, Tear Down the Walls. I've got 2 asterisks next to this, which means I like it, but my notes don't really indicate that. Another real me-ish analog, but I love the keyboards. Andy, Tear Down the Walls.
It's okay too. It's another, like you said, got a lot of keyboards. He loves the keyboards ever since the Idol, right? I think the Idol.
He started on the keys.
Circus.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true.
He brought Ken Hensley in on. Well, Ken Hensley was on that was Headless, wasn't it?
Headless.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Headless.
But there was some keys on Electric Circus as well. So.
Well, there's a difference between some and all.
Yeah, but at least they're deep purplish.
Yeah, I get
or
you.
Uriah Heepish, if we're gonna say Hensley.
I get you. The song's okay. It's not one of my favorites either. But I mean, I mean, this is, again, this Neon 2 is better than Neon 1, but these are not my favorite W.A.S.P albums. Not even close on the top of the whatever, how many they put out now. 13, 15, whatever the hell it is with compilations. So these 2 are not even on the list, on the top list area close. But, it's okay. It just, I don't know. Like you said, just getting older, and I just don't want to listen to word things. I just want to hear the music, you know. And the guys, and the thing is too. Again, I'll say it again. Blackie's voice is just phenomenal. It seems to be so good, and the guys playing are great too. It's all that stuff, and I don't know. I think get mad too because this is where they stopped touring in the United States. That was it. So the Neon God, I saw the tour. They came after that. It was all done. So from that year, 2004 until now, it's been nothing. So that kind of irks me too. So man. So anyways, the song's okay. Next, somebody else go.
Bill.
Well, and I call this single worthy as well. Has two great guitar solos in it, and the hook in the chorus is just awesome. And I brought up you don't get much more Uriah Heep than that keyboard outro, and that's the thing about it is you end up finding the two comparisons that you keep coming back to W.A.S.P are the Who and Uriah Heep, and I just think it's a great song. And where we were talking about it may not necessarily be an album to walk around and do stuff in the house. I actually did that today. I was like, well, I'm going to get one more spin on it before I meet up with the guys. And so I threw it on YouTube and just had it blasting through the speaker, making my coffee and, making my breakfast and all that stuff. And I was just kind of like, I'm walking around listening to Neon God 2, doing my daily doing. And it was cool. That's the thing about it is all of a sudden I looked down and was like, oh, wow, it's almost over. Because, I actually kind of started like the last 15 minutes of it, and then I hit replay, and I made it right back to where I was at. And it wasn't there wasn't really anything skip worthy on it. So, but here we are, what 1, 2, 3, 4 songs in, and, 2 songs I would call singles.
Yeah. I probably didn't do the wisest thing. I had a 6-hour Rolling Stones playlist followed by Pink Floyd Division Bell before doing this episode. So I don't know, my headspace is in the right place for it. Come Back to Black. For me, everything's syncing nicely with the story on this song. It needs, the training wheels have come off for me. So it just strikes me how hellishly creative Blackie is on a song like this in particular. Is the elements really come together with combining telling a story with it being easily digestible and catchy as hell. I mean, Come Back to Black is just way too catchy. Even if you think Klaus Meine should be singing it, it's very Scorpions. I think they had a song in recent years with the same title. So, Bill, back to you on that.
Well, and this was another one I called single worthy, and it's easy to separate from the context of the story, but it does fit into the story. It's where Judah's pleading for Jesse to, what we have is good. It's good for us. It's good for the congregation. Come back to this, and so it fits the story that way. But it could also be a standalone single with a scary as hell video. And it has 2 great guitar solos in it. I mean, Daryl is, off the chain on this record. So, and that's the weird thing, where Blackie, he's developed the reputation, especially with a lot of the stories that come out about him now, where he's, this controlling and he's, doing this to this guy and, basically ripping people off that's in his own band or whatever. He gives Daryl a lot of leeway to do some really good guitar soloing on this album. And he gets 2 of them in this song.
Yeah, and he's the creative force behind W.A.S.P, for all these years, all these albums, through all these different players as well. So you got to give credit where credit's due, even if in the early years there was a little bit more to it than, certainly the case. But he's certainly steering that ship perfectly fine. Andy, is this single worthy?
Oh, yeah. Just like you said, so catchy. Come back to Black. Next thing you're walking around and you come back. And first song, you listen to this album, first thing, that song sticks right out of all of them. Because it keeps coming at you. Come back to Black. I know it sounds simple, but it's the whole hook thing. And it works. This is an awesome song. Like Bill said, the solos, man, just keep going and going and going. And like you said, he lets them rip, Definitely this would be if I was putting out the single, this would be the first one. If I wanted to hit, if everybody right in the face, this, okay, kind of more catchy, more radio. I would say radio. Imagine that, W.A.S.P radio. But anyways, you know what I'm saying? More catchy, more that way. But this would do. Yep. This is probably my favorite song off the whole album. This one. Yep. Bingo. Yay.
All right, let's stay with you for all my life. The next one.
All my life. It's all my life. All my
It's
life.
not the Foo Fighters.
It's not the Foo Fighters. It's not the Foo Fighters. It's all right. Where'd I get? Oh, where'd I get it? Did I get everything mixed up? Oh yeah. What did I do with this? Got all the words. I got all my stuff. Oh, okay. To me, all my life has that. To me, it has that Crimson Idol feel. Music-wise, I don't know why, but it does. So I like it, but it's like, it's kind of weird. Is this like an old song? Like from way back then, like brought up to now? Because it does. It has that Crimson Idol kind of tone and feel to it. I like it though, but it just definitely. I wonder if it's an older song. All these years later.
Yeah, all his life. There's a couple of musical motifs that start with Crimson Idol and Still Not Black Enough that seem to rear their heads as echoes on every album in the years since. Bill, all my life.
Yeah, well, I never really thought about it being the Crimson Idol reference, but if you think about it, the Crimson Idol is a story of redemption just the same as this is. So it kind of bridges the two of them together. I basically just had it was a general reflective piece, and it was really good for the setup to the conclusion of the story.
Yeah, and I guess Crimson Idol, I don't want to be your Crimson Idol. The Crimson Idol is the same as not wanting to be, your neon god. So there's kind of your crossover at a very, very high level. But I think maybe this song is finally the Demise, because Jesse's realizing what he's become, and the self-loathing in it, really seems to be almost anguishing. When you finally kind of take your mask off, you look in the mirror, and it all becomes obvious. That's what I get, and let's move on. Destinies to Come. Neon Dion. Bill.
Well, it's certainly not about Deion Sanders. I was sitting there looking at Neon Dion, and I'm like, why would you even name it that? But okay. I have it's basically the antagonist's final view of Jesse in an effort to battle him before the whole charade comes to an end, And it's kind of like I guess in the Christmas spirit with Die Hard, it'd be Hans Gruber talking all the shit that he could before he ends up flying off the side of the building. But it's basically just Judah getting his last raps in before it's all over. And it's well performed, and fits into the story great. What I got.
Yeah, this one I've got the most notes on of any of the songs on the album. I'm like, first of all, this is a musical steamroller on the album, as much as XTC Riders was on the first. And it serves a similar function to me that song did on Volume 1. It's the ultimate betrayal. And with a name like Judah, I guess no one saw that coming, did they? And of course it was for the proverbial silver and a public execution. Heard that story before as well. So, yeah. It's musically the most powerful song for me, because there's, just like I said with XTC Riders, there's something on that song will be on my best of W.A.S.P. And I don't know about this one. I'll have to wait to see as I narrow down my playlist for the best of W.A.S.P. episode. Andy, Destinies to Come.
It's you can see the end is near. the uh-oh. We're gonna say goodbye. Oh, I don't know. I can't get into the lyrics. The lyrics stuff as well. I just like listening to music right now. With it, it's okay. It's not like I said. I give it about a 2. I'm not as crazy about it. It is what it is. I got like I said. I'm getting kind of like, okay. I'm done with the whole. I'm done with this kind of thing. because I just wish I'm just done with the going back and forth for me. This person, that person in the same voice. Oof, I'm done. I'm sorry. No, that's it for me. I'm done with that.
It's okay. We've already got one more song, then you won't have to open up the manual on the next album. Or will you?
No, but it's just so sad because I love W.A.S.P so much, and you guys know that. You know what I mean? You're going to see this episode and goes, "Oh, Eddie's going to be what a jerk, man!" And you're like, "Oh, whatever."
Well, in your defense, Andy, like I always go back to the Who, and like I mentioned with Tommy, okay, the original Tommy album release, you hear Roger Daltrey singing as the Acid Queen. I don't buy it. It doesn't sound like the Acid Queen. The Acid Queen is the insane character that Tina Turner brought in the movie, because that is buyable. But hearing Roger Daltrey singing about being the Acid Queen wasn't. That's where I actually had a thought about, like, comparing this back to Tommy again. It's like, was Tommy as an album a huge deal when it came out, or did it have just enough good singles that made it a big seller? And I'm not even sure how it sold initially, whatever. But I mean, when people think of Tommy, they think of the movie more than they do the 1969 album, because really, I hate the 1969 album. I'm used to hearing Elton John singing as the Pinball Wizard. I'm used to Tina Turner singing as the Acid Queen. And I'm used to Mooney singing as Uncle Albert. Not Uncle Albert. What's the uncle's name? Well, anyway, I'm used to the other guys in the band singing into those other characters instead of having one voice singing all the way through. And this could actually be, if they wanted to re-neonize this album, they could actually go in and do some doctoring to where they brought in other voices to sing and left Blackie as Jesse. Leave him from the beginning to end as Jesse, but then bring in somebody with a sinister voice, to be Judah, and bringing in some females to be Mary, and even some of the disciples, or making a group thing out of that. They could actually doctor this album back into where it would be just as good as the Tommy soundtrack.
Well, I'm going to. I wonder if Mike Duda could sing. One of the guys. Sit there and sing. And you're right, though. He needs somebody. They need somebody else to sing some of this stuff. It just gets totally lost. It is.
And not.
It's like homework. It's like a lot of homework, right? It's homework. Lots of homework.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't want to listen to one person singing Jesus Christ Superstar.
Hell no.
It doesn't work. The Wall works, better than the movie, because it's not so much. Well, they've got multiple singers, as well, so that always helps, and they've got a little bit more help going on there. But for what Blackie's doing, again, essentially on his own with his musicians executing vision, I think it is still admirable, even if it'd be interesting to see. I mean, you see schools do productions of Kiss's Elder. I mean, what good Catholic school would love to do a stage production of the Neon God? Because again, the themes are biblical, but they're also timeless. That it is, these themes do run the gamut. So I think it would actually make a very good school production, where those multiple voices could be heard. I don't know about going back in and dicking around with the multi-tracks and having, different people do the voices, because that would be interesting.
That's kind of a stretch, but, really, as far as Blackie's performances on it, as Jesse, it's outstanding stuff. It's just, you could just move it could possibly done.
It gets a bit tiring hearing him trying to switch between these characters, or not effectively switching between the different voices that are being spoken through his lyrics. And while you can read it and it's a little bit more script-like, and easy to follow there, as you just said, the lyrics aren't mixed in with the story. So
if it's printed in order too, good Lord, there's so many of them that the chorus is like 2/3 of the way down the listing, It's just, where you'll read the first verse and then you look at the next line after the first verse and they go to the chorus, which is 2/3 of the way through what they've got printed out. I think it's a real bummer that they couldn't, print the lyrics as the songs were recorded. If you put chorus in parentheses and then repeat it after that, fine, do that. But, whoever did the typesetting or whatever for this, maybe they should find another job.
All right, Bill. It'll take us into The Last Redemption, final song.
Feel me, see me, touch me. That's the thing, is that he got to that point there, and it's almost in the same melody. It's really close to the same melody as that. And it's just like, okay, well, there's another Who thing that I get to poke at him about. Is it a happy ending? That's pretty subjective. It depends on whose happiness you're looking for. I don't think that Judah and the disciples are happy in the end. I'm not even sure if Jesse's happy in the end. It really kind of leaves it wide open.
And that's what I don't like. I don't like wide open endings. I want to know whether he's crucified on the cross, literally or figuratively, and I don't get that resolution from it. And it's 13 minutes long. I mean, it actually flows pretty well structurally for such a long song. It doesn't feel like, say, an Iron Maiden song like Empire of the Cloud. You're like, are we frickin' over yet? And last time I went to a Maiden show, there were some songs on there that I was actually looking at my watch. We're at 9 minutes. We're getting there. So it wasn't that sort of painful 13-minute songs. But it seems to be the confession. And even after all the rage, still no one wants to hear. People are going to hear what they want to hear no matter what you say, what you do, is the only message that I really get out of it, that your only redemption that you're going to get from coming clean is with yourself, not with anyone else. So, that's pretty vanilla. Andy?
Geez, should I take down all the pictures on my wall of people I have because they're not gods? I don't know. You know what I mean? It's just basically saying, don't put me on the pedestal because I'm no better than you are. It's just kind of like that thing, finally realizing, this is not good. I'm not a good person because I did this, and I got to get out of here. That's what it seems to me. It sounds like musically wise, man, it's a long song, but like you said, it flows really good. And I guess it leaves it open because I think Blackie, likes to keep the things open about making you think. You know what I mean? He's that. He always said, he's like, when he got into all this kind of doing this kind of music-wise stuff, that he said, he always liked people to have their think and not like a finish, not an end, But again, I'm not into the religious stuff, so some people are, and they can take it out as they worth it. You want to be crucified? I don't know. Again, what you like is somebody else might not like, right? That's what I said about putting people on the walls. So, but musically wise, man, it's really good. The flow's really good. The guitars are good. The drums are good. The bass good. But again, Blackie's voice is just unbelievable. So good, But again, this comes right back to the same thing. The voice changing, Judah, back and forth, but it's still Blackie doing all the speaking, singing, basically. It's too bad. But other than that, it's okay.
See, I think this is the one where he separated Jesse and Judah the best. Mm-hmm. I think that there was points where Judah was in the speaking voice, and you could actually tell when Judah stopped talking and Jesse did, or their point of view. And another thing, you went through all the instruments. The orchestration and the arrangement of this whole record has been it's great. You don't get tired by the instrumental pieces in it, and like the Maiden stuff, sometimes you just get worn out totally by it. But it's all really cohesive. It's all played well, and it's mixed really well too.
And I think part of it now, thinking about it more now, because now it's making me think more, that he's the the god or whatever, and decides, oh yeah, this is bad, this is wrong, I'm leaving. there's always somebody behind you that's going to take over. So it doesn't matter. There's always going to be somebody behind you that thinks they're the one, so they're going to take their spot. It's going to go on forever, it's just well, how it is. It's like that in real life, so.
Yeah, there's always night and day. There's always shadows in the darkness. There's always shining lights in the light without having to even get, religious about it. There's always positive. There's always negative. Always yin, always yang. It's called nature. It's binary, zeros and ones. At the very fundamental level, without bringing anything faith-based into it. So, Bill, final song. I guess you kind of covered, haven't you?
I started that one.
You did? I lost track. It was a 13-minute song, so I completely lost it.
I did my Who impersonation with Feel Me, Touch Me.
Yeah, so here we are at the end. I think I've already said that I don't get up in the morning and say, I'm going to listen to Neon God Volume 2 today. It's all or nothing. Same? Either of you?
Yeah, but I mean, I wouldn't hesitate to drop some of these in a playlist. Definitely. The ones I mentioned, Single Worthy, definitely could fall into a playlist.
We will see how many make your list when you've got to come up with a list of 20 W.A.S.P songs for your best.
Man, that's going to be tough
for me to do the magic on to come up with the final list. I mean, Andy, what about you? Do you get up in the morning and say, I'm going to listen to Neon God the Rise today?
No, not no. I just no. I mean, and I've not again. The drums are great. Vlacky's voice is great and everything else. But it just, like I said, there are other things besides just music-wise, how I never got my hands on a copy right away. I had to get a copy of somebody else's, man. It made me mad. They weren't touring anymore in the United States. That pissed me off. Those little things kind of come into the cracks, for me as a fan since early age, since the early stuff. I mean, I didn't live in LA, so I never get to see that part of it. But, since I had heard them and saw them on the 1985, when a friend of mine in the car, we were going to Springfield, Mass to see Kiss on the Animalized tour, and a friend of mine, we're in his Mustang, and another friend who was like 5 of us. It's like an hour and a half drive from here. And he goes, hey, this is the band that's opening up, man. Check them out. And he put it in the cassette in his Mustang, his old Mustang. And I'm like, wow, man, this is pretty wild. W.A.S.P opened up. And I was like, his general mission on the floor right there. And I'm like, wow. And I had never, besides seeing Kiss do theatrical kind of stuff like that, seeing W.A.S.P, man, with the chain thing and I know, and the assless chaps, everybody's, oh my God. No meat throwing, though. Never got to see the meat throw, so they had already got rid of the meat throw by then, I guess, or legally, I don't know. Anyways, we talk about that some other time when we get into that whole stuff. But all this comes into the frame about this music because that's what, for me, drives me more until I want to listen to it more because I saw the tour. I was able to pick up the album on the day it was released. I get to slap it in my car. I was one of those kids who used to cut class, and I say it all the time. I said, oh, man, in high school, especially in the 80s, right? I'm like, yeah, forget this, man. The new W.A.S.P album's coming, or a new Kiss album's coming out, man. Forget school, man. Mom, Dad, I'm going to be either late or I'm skipping school. I'm going down to Strawberries, down to my mall. I'm going to wait until they open up at 10 o'clock, get the new CD, CD at the time or cassette, slap it in my car and drive around. That's what I love, But now, by 2004, can't find it. Where is everything going? By 2004, what was the music in 2004? Nowhere, right? There wasn't much out in 2004. So I don't know. So that's what drives me to listen to some of the albums more than others, and that happens with every band, even with Kiss stuff. I listen to certain albums more because they had something to do with my life more, That's how I look at the W.A.S.P stuff, man. Since the early years, yep. On those tours I saw, yep. So that's it.
It's going to get interesting. It feels like this is a hump one has to get over when going through the W.A.S.P catalog. That we've got to get over the Neon God in order to get to Dominator, and then back on a string of 3 more studio albums. Which, if you think about the albums that come before this, then it's kind of easier to be talking about unholy terror and dying for the world. Those episodes themselves obviously were really fun with the music because there was less. Did you print out the manual? Did you read the story before getting into it?
Here's your homework for a month just to be able to get through the album.
Well, and and the other thing is, all of that stuff was online, and then apparently here, with all the activity that W.A.S.P has been digging up lately, they completely reconfigured the website to where none of those archives are available anymore.
I think the website's actually gone. W.A.S.P Nation. I think it's actually totally gone.
No, it's all brand new. It's got all the stuff advertising all the European dates and stuff like that right now. But as far as the archives, when you can go back into there and read all the lyrics and stuff like that, it's all gone.
Well, hopefully we get that sorted out. All right, that's it. Neon God, Part 2, The Demise. We're done. Thank goodness. So next episode, we're actually going to go back to the beginning, and we are going to talk about what Blackie's got planned for Europe, because no dates have been announced for the United States yet, Andy. I'm sorry, but we're gonna talk about our thoughts about that concept and the stuff that we like. If we're going back to the beginning, that takes me back to a happy place. Go listen to some '83 bootlegs, some demo tracks, some interviews and all that, and come up with some thoughts around that area. So hopefully we will not be delaying another W.A.S.P episode for I don't know how many months it's been since the last one. Certainly been.
It was September, I think.
Oh, sorry, everybody.
Well, that's the thing is, we get some of us got sick and some of us had more than one of us got sick, and I had car problems for 3 weeks in a row. So life happens, But yeah, let's get back on the horse and be back in a couple weeks. Sounds good to me.
Thank you for watching or listening to this episode. Be sure to subscribe to us, like us, or even leave us a review. You can find us and join the conversation on Facebook.